First, we'll start with our definition of reflection, which is when an electromagnetic wave is redirected outwardly at the surface of a material. And you've seen this before with light. If you've ever seen light shine off the surface of water when it reflects off, or when you see a reflection in a mirror. But let's take a look at two different types of reflection. First, diffuse and then specular. Diffuse reflection is when a surface is rough and it comes off at random angles. Notice that these are going off in scattered directions. So the light rays come in parallel and then they come off at different angles. Whereas specular surfaces are smooth surfaces that are reflected in one direction or in the same direction. So these come in parallel and these all go off parallel as well. For specular, think of a mirror. For diffuse, think of like concrete and how light does reflect off concrete, but it comes off at different angles. It's a rough surface. Next, let's take a look at the law of reflection. The law of reflection tells us that the angle of incidence, the incoming angle, is equal to the angle of reflection, the outgoing angle, for smooth surfaces. And here's your example right here. If we look at this one and we draw our normal, we can see that the angle of incidence is equal to the angle of reflection here. Okay, equal to one another. So the angle of incidence is denoted as theta. The angle of reflection is denoted as theta prime. Theta prime. And notice that these angles are measured from the normal. If a light had been directed from straight above along the line of the normal, it would go straight back upward in this direction. Next, let's take a look at the visible spectrum. And we can remember Roy G. Biv, red, orange, yellow, green, blue, indigo, violet. And sometimes books, especially your textbook, leaves out indigo, which is really just the shade between the blue and the violet colors. And now what we should notice, though, is that color is really the result of a surface that absorbs parts of the visible spectrum and reflects only one part, or a combination of parts that give only one color. So specifically for green, all these colors are absorbed except for green. Now sometimes when you see shades, that's because certain parts are absorbed and then there's a combination that is reflected. What we should also notice is that the result of all the colors being reflected is the color white. And when all the colors are absorbed by a certain material, the pigment that you're seeing there is black. Now that's the reason why in the summertime, when you go to, say, the beach, or you're out somewhere where there's a lot of sun, you'll wear a white t-shirt so it reflects all the colors of the spectrum, as opposed to a black t-shirt which absorbs all the colors so it doesn't heat you up as fast. Now the primary colors. Now here we're looking at the primary colors of visible light. We're not looking at primary pigment colors, which have to do with art. So we're looking at the three colors, red, blue, and green, that can be added together in different proportions to create any of the other colors of the spectrum. And what you'll notice is that when the overlapping of all three of these colors occur, we get white light in the middle there. When these two colors overlap, we get yellow light. Now, one thing to note and to see is that these are the same three types of receptors that humans have in their eyes. Those are called cone cells. The cone cells can read or can interpret the different colors. And it's also seen in TV screens or like any sort of monitor, where the pixels, really what they are, is one of the three primary colors at different brightness levels. So every single individual pixel is just either red, green, or blue. The combination of all those pixels at once is what you're seeing. And those pixels are constantly changing by rows. But the change occurs so quick that it seems smooth on the TV, even though those pixels are actually changing colors using transistors.